Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here with a quick recap of what took place in jury selection today. Not sure how things are really going. I mean, when you look at it on the surface, it seems like it's not going too well as far as seating a jury. But then when you compare it to how jury selection went in the Eastern District of New York, it may be going as planned. And if you guys recall in the video that I did where Judge Leinenweber was saying that he had 100 people that said that they could, be available for a 1-month trial. And then he said he was going to try and narrow it down to 35 people, and then they would try and get a jury seated from those 35 people. So when you look at it from that perspective, they may be doing okay, but I don't know. It is definitely going to run until tomorrow, and I will let you guys give you a brief recap of what actually took place in court today. So hold tight, and I will be right back after this message. Okay, guys. So before we jump into this, as you know, I am in Florida. I am not in Illinois. So the information that I am about to provide to you is information that I was able to scour together from these internet streets, particularly Twitter, the Chicago Sun-Times, and the Chicago Tribune, and the reporters that are covering this is, I think her name is Megan Capoon, John Seidel, and what is that other guy's name? It's another guy with the Associated Press who is working for Court TV. Let me see if I can get down to his name, if I even wrote it down. Michael Tarm. Okay, so at the end of court today, they had gone through, get back up here, at the end of court today, or jury selection today, they had vetted about 60 potential jurors, but haven't seated anyone yet. So basically what they'll do is they'll narrow it down. Remember I said he wants to get to at least 35 people. So they will narrow it down to those 35 rough estimate number of people. And then remember, the prosecution has 6 strikes that they can use, and then the 3 defense teams together, which is Jennifer Bonjean for Mr. Kelly, Mary Judge for Milton Brown, and then Bo Brindley and Vadmer Glosman for Daryl McDavid. So between all of them, okay, they get 10 strikes. And then the judge said that he'll see how it's going as to whether or not he will give the defense team additional strikes, because they were saying it's not fair. The government gets 6 and then we have to split the 10 amongst the 3 defense team. And what if one of the lawyers uses up 5 of the strikes, and that means that the other 2 got to struggle over the last 5 that are left over. So he said that he would see how things were going and whether or not he would give the defense additional strikes. And so they vetted 60 potential jurors. So when court adjourned for the day, 63 people were questioned. 29 of them were excused, so that leaves 34 people. So we already know he's probably not going to get his 35 people. He could get more than 35 if he goes through the rest of the people, because there were 100 to start with, roughly, based on information we already know. They've dismissed, if they've gone through 63, that leaves 34. Yeah, I don't know how this is gonna work out, y'all. The math ain't mathing. Okay, so they may have to go back into the jury pool and pull some more people out. So anyway, court adjourned for the day. 63 people were questioned, 29 of them excused. That leaves 34 people still in the running to be jurors in the trial. Landon Weber is slated to question more people tomorrow before attorneys start exercising their preemptory strikes. And I believe that was a tweet by Megan. And if you want to read Megan's article, she is writing for the Chicago Tribune. Okay. And so it goes on to say Kelly and two co-defendants face charges for hiding evidence, just stuff from the 2008 case. They allegedly successfully rigged his first Cook County case back in the 2000s. That's what the government is alleging, and that's why he is back on trial again. And I can't reiterate enough that this is not double jeopardy because it's two sovereignties. The state can try you for something and the feds can come back and try you again for those exact same things. So, no double jeopardy. So please stop saying in the comments, this is double jeopardy, this is double jeopardy, because technically under the law, it is not double jeopardy. It would be double jeopardy if the Cook County was retrying him again for the 2008 case. And where double jeopardy would come into play is, you know that Rashona Landfair is one of the people in the Cook County case. So they could basically say this is double jeopardy, right? You've already tried him for this. He was acquitted. Why are you bringing this back up again? So it goes on, and this is Megan again who's talking. So she says, Judge Harry LaDamien made rulings on a slew of pretrial motions last week without those rulings ever hitting the public record. And you guys remember in my last video, I said, hey, he hasn't ruled on any of these motions as I'm trying to get caught up on the motions. And I'm just going to do all the final motions in one video following this video. But I was saying he'll probably make his rulings either today or the first day of the trial. But what is interesting is that he didn't put his motions on the record. And he did the same thing prior in the last status hearing. So remember in the last status hearing, he just went down the list of all his rulings for all the motions that had been filed. And then it was a couple of days later when the written ruling was actually out there. And so I'll make sure to do a video on those written rulings because it'll explain more as to why he came to the conclusion that he did. So Megan was a little concerned. She says apparently they did not get docketed because of the nature of the hearing in which I gave the rulings. And that was what the judge said. Okay, so I don't know if they're going to be sealed or what. But Megan thought that this was quite suspicious. So she goes on and says, Landon Weber speed running through the rulings. He denies co-defendant McDavid's request for more records about former Kelly prosecutors' communications with a key witness in Jim Derogatis. And you guys know that that is Angel Cruel, who actually brought this case, who, quietly stepped away from it in 2020, I believe they said. Either 2020 or 2021, she left the case. We don't know because she didn't formally terminate from the case as they're supposed to do. She's actually still out there listed as the lead prosecutor. And then it says he rejects defense arguments that prosecutors botched chain of custody on a key video, saying witnesses are expected to authenticate it, basically saying that it's not up to the prosecutors to authenticate the video. It is going to be up to witnesses to say, yes, this is the same video that was shown during the grand jury in 2000. And yes, and they keep saying 2000, but I thought the grand jury met in 2000. I thought the charges were brought in 2002. Yeah, it seemed like they got their dates mixed up in these records. But in any event, the argument is whether or not the same video from the grand jury in the early 2000s is the same video that was used in the 2008 case. And then this takes me back to Geronda Pace, and I'm just going to keep talking about this. I don't know why Geronda Pace is a part of this case, and the reason I'm not understanding why is because in Jennifer Bonjean's last or second to last motion that she's filed, she says that the government has not provided a list of bad act witnesses if they are going to call any, nor have they provided, they said the bad acts witnesses and some other witnesses, they said that the government hadn't provided a list of, so she wasn't sure, like, when did she get to file a motion to, as far as these bad act witnesses, if they haven't gotten the information. And so I could only see Geronda as a bad act witnesses, right? Like maybe they would call her to the stand because, and we talked about this in a previous video, because, she was at the trial lying. Like, why would you want to put somebody on the stand that has proven to be a liar? Because all Jennifer Bonjean and the rest of the people are going to do is get up there and say, okay, well, how did you get in the courtroom when you were a certain age? You weren't old enough to be in the courtroom. And how is it that you just happened to be photographed by Jim Derogatis's sister-in-law or daughter-in-law? Remember, guys, I told you, it's not the wife, it's not the ex-wife, it's an in-law who was taking those pictures according to court documents. How is it that you were photographed every day by this person, and then all these years later, now you and Jim Derogatis are working together to bring this man down? Like, seems like a conspiracy that was started a long time ago. Like, that's what I would say if I was Jennifer Bonjean and she was up there on the stand. So then I was thinking, like, maybe they're going to use Geronda to authenticate that it's the same video, since she was there in the courtroom every day, right? Like, I just cannot figure out why this girl is testifying if she's not a bad act witness, and that they haven't, they're not giving bad act witnesses. Now, that's not to say that the day before the trial is scheduled to start, that they're not going to present a list of people that they want to enter, as these witnesses. That still could happen. But Jennifer Bonjean said in her motion that, hey, we're getting ready to start jury selection and we haven't gotten a motion from the government about who they're going to call as these witnesses. So anyway, he goes on and he rejects an argument to exclude testimony. So wait a minute, he says, okay, so he wanted the witnesses would authenticate whether or not it's the same video, and then granted a government motion to exclude testimony from a doctor about Kelly's low IQ. And that really became a null or mute point because Jennifer Bonjean had decided not to call this guy. And that was one of the documents that I was going to read to you all. Like, this man submitted, or Jennifer Bonjean submitted, 198-page resume on this guy, on his cases he's worked on, books he's written, education. Like, he had a long resume, and he was going to speak to Mr. Kelly's IQ, but then I guess she decided against that strategy and told them that it really doesn't matter at this point because she's not calling him anyway. So Judge Lennon Weber also denied a defense request to reject any prospective jurors who have seen any part of the Surviving Lies docuseries. And that was a video that I did over the weekend, and I'll drop the link above. Jurors' fairness will be determined on a case-by-case basis, according to Lennon Weber. It's one thing if they saw every single Surviving Lies episode recently, but it's a different thing if they only saw a little of it a long time ago. And that's his reasoning for denying the motion. And I thought it was interesting because somebody commented on the Twitter, not on the Twitter, but on the tweet, and said, so basically, I saw the entire docuseries when it first came out, and it convinced me that he was guilty as hell. but I'm able to be a fair and impartial juror. So do I get to go on the jury stand? So just because people saw the thing when it first came out in 2019 doesn't mean that they didn't make up their mind in 2019 and still hold those values, or he'll still hold those views that he's guilty. Like, that was so crazy to me. So anyway, child, it proved to be a faulty ruling as we continue on, and you will see for yourself. So potential jurors are being questioned one by one, a process that is likely to stretch into tomorrow. First up is an attorney turned stay-at-home parent who wasn't aware of the case until she showed up last week to fill out the jury questionnaire. Now, do we believe her? No, we don't. Second person up says, thinking about the case and the charges over the weekend, I no longer firmly believe that I can be unbiased, and she was promptly excused. And so they did the questionnaire last Thursday. And then now they know exactly who the case is about. If they didn't know from the questionnaire that they got in the mail, they know for sure now who the person is. And so they've had time over the weekend to think about it, to research it, to look up information, to go on Netflix and watch whatever episodes are still there, or Google to find out where else they can watch episodes of Surviving Lies so that they can form their opinion. So tell me, how is this ever going to be a fair and impartial jury? No way. So it says one prospective juror said that they saw part of an episode but doesn't remember anything substantive about it. I think I might have even fallen asleep before the end of it. People are crazy. So Lennon Weber has excused 5 more people, 3 who said they might not be impartial, 1 for hardship, and another whose job involves advocating for young people. I would do my best to be fair. My only concern would be the defensiveness side. I think she meant the defense side kicking in, that person said. Chicago is a small town. One woman says she and her siblings used to take taekwondo classes with Kelly's children. It could affect her ability to be impartial, she says, and Lennon Weber dismissed her. And so then later on in the day, Megan wrote, of about 30 potential jurors questioned so far, about half have been dismissed by her preliminary account. Many of the people who were excused said they have a hard time remaining unbiased. And then later on, after they had went on break, she came back and made another tweet. And all this that I'm reading to you, these are tweets that are on Twitter, of course. And her name is Megan Kapu. Let me see how you spell that. Let me go. If you guys want to follow her, let me see. So it's Megan, Megan, and the last name is Crepeau, and she writes for, who does Megan write for? She writes for the Chicago Tribune. Let me see. Okay, she hasn't added anything else out here, so let me go back to my notes. So she says, one prospective juror says he thinks at one point he may have written something derogatory online related to the case. I'm sure it wasn't one thing, it might have been a whole bunch of things, but he can be fair. Lennon Weber dismisses him. At this rate, selection will go well into tomorrow. And then her last tweet was, one potential juror says all she knows about Surviving Lies is that a friend told her if she watched it, she'd probably get out of jury duty. Lots of laughs from the courtroom in response. But then the lady said that she did not watch it, and she could be fair and impartial. So then we move over to Michael Tarm, and that's Michael, Michael Tarm, and he is writing for the Associated Press, and I did see some of his stuff over on Court TV, so he might be the correspondent For Court TV. I'm not sure if I can't think of Janae's last name. I've been trying to find her on Twitter, but I can't remember her last name. The one that covered the New York case, not sure if she is there. And then I'm also because they are allowing people into the courtroom, I am trying to figure out if Court TV is going to do like they did with the Harvey Weinstein case, where they'll get the transcripts, because you guys know this is federal court. Now, Harvey Weinstein wasn't in federal court. He was in state court. But in federal court, it is prohibited. You cannot film or record in the courtroom. And that's why you'll have, like when these reporters are live tweeting, well, they're not really live tweeting. When they're tweeting, they're basically running outside to enter that. They have to write this stuff down, and then they run outside to make their tweets and do whatever online cover or on-air coverage that they're doing, because you cannot have recording devices in the courtroom. You cannot record it. It's not aired on TV or anything like that. They can't have their phones out tweeting inside the courtroom and that type of thing. And so I'm wondering if they will allow, though, for Court TV to buy those transcripts, because technically the transcripts are available like every 2 hours or every 3 hours. You should be able to get transcripts. We know in the Eastern District of New York, Donnelly was holding the transcripts for like a week. It's talking about she got to go through them and read them and you make sure, anything that should be redacted is redacted. There was stuff that even though she didn't say it should be redacted, she wanted it redacted anyway. And so she was delaying the release of the transcripts for about a week. But I don't think the Lennon Weber guy is going to be doing stuff like that. I hope not. So in any event, Court TV was basically getting the transcripts in the Weinstein case every 2 hours. And then they had people doing basically what a lot of YouTubers, including myself, was doing, was reenacting the transcripts, and they were doing it on air. And so you were able to follow the trial in basically real time. It was just like a 2-hour delay, and they were on it. And so I'm hoping that they'll be able to do that with this case, and he won't be holding on to the transcripts like Donnelly did. So going on to Michael Tarm's coverage, and like I said, he's with the Associated Press. Of course, he started talking, about what the case is all about, and that, Kelly was acquitted. He talks about Bunjin. It says, wait, hold on a second. He said, I'm sorry, guys, I got to catch back up where I was at. I get to freestyling here, and then I lose my place. Okay, so he says that Mr. Kelly was wearing a light gray suit and a tie, that he sat next to his attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, as court began on Monday. Bonjean introduced herself, Kelly and her and other attorneys representing him, and those are Bonjean's attorneys from her different offices in New York and Chicago. Kelly wore a mask, as did everyone in the courtroom, due to coronavirus precautions. And then I was wondering if the people in the courtroom, because if you guys ever served on jury duty, I know I have been called for jury duty several times, and a couple of times I actually was picked for the jury, but in one case, the charges were dropped. And in the other case, the guy decided to plead guilty. So I didn't actually have to sit in on the jury. But basically how they did the questionnaire stuff last week and then gave these people the whole weekend. Every time I've been called for jury duty and made it to the point, made it to the next round, like I was called in that day with a group of people. It'd be like 50 people in the room. You do your questionnaire, you turn it in, and then they come back and then they call out your number. And those are the people that are moving forward. Everybody else is sent home. Then they go in and they do the part where they do the strikes, where they ask the questions and whatnot by the judge. Then they narrow it down. And then they call your number again, and now it's a smaller group. And then they do the preemptive strikes, and then they narrow it down to who the jury is. And then the trial usually starts either later that day, depending on, I've never been called for like a really big case. So in all the cases I've been called for, the trial actually the jury is seated like by lunchtime, and then the trial starts after lunch. Like, you don't get to go home and research. You definitely don't have like 3 days to do research and figure out if you want to come up with a lie to get dismissed from this jury. So the fact that the jury had 3 whole days in which to mull over once they found out what the case was about, I think is kind of crazy to me. But anyway, that is what they allowed to happen. So anyway, he goes on to say that Mr. Kelly occasionally leaned over to speak to his lead attorney, tugging on the white mask covering his mouth and nose and nodding as the lawyer spoke. Oftentimes, he fidgeted and rocked slightly in his chair. As part of COVID protocols, everyone in the courtroom must wear masks. And then his next tweet was, Kelly gave potential jurors a quick, polite wave when his lawyer introduced him. Kelly appeared calm and attentive as jury selection got underway, looking on from a defense table through black rimmed glasses and dressed in a gray suit, yellow dress shirt, and tie. All right, they got him looking good up in there, y'all. Sound like to me. That's a good combo. Before at least 24 potential jurors were brought in, the judge said he hoped to select 12 jurors and 6 alternates Monday and Tuesday from a pool of 125. Okay, so he upped it by 25. Once a jury is chosen, the panel will hear opening statements from prosecutors and the defense before the first witness is called. Kelly, who rose from poverty, blah, 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 goes on to talk about, how he's a star singer, songwriter, producer, and that he's facing multiple charges, and he talks about what the charges are. And then before potential jurors were brought in, Bongine asked the judge to exclude anyone who had watched the documentary. And then he says that an estimated 12.8 million people watched the 6-part series that premiered in January 2019. So let's be clear. 12.8 million people did not watch Surviving Lies in January of 2019. Remember, it was a 6-part series, okay? So there was an estimated 3 people per night that watched each episode. And 75% of those people were the same people night after night after night. So don't be giving us these fake numbers like all these people were interested in watching that show, because a whole bunch of people in America did not watch that show and still have not watched it, because I am one of it. I think one of them. I watched the first episode. Don't think I made it through the entire 2 hours. Tried watching the second episode, probably made it about 15 minutes, and then I didn't watch any more of it because I was just so disgusted. And so everything else that I know about Surviving Lies were just like little clips that were appearing on social media where people were talking about it. But no, I did not sit through all 6 episodes of that mess, because I was just like, this is some bull crap that people are even allowed to do stuff like this. But that's the society that we live in today. So he goes on and says that the judge denied that motion, but said the jurors would be questioned about the program. And then he talks about the sentence in New York, the fact that he has 2 associates in this case, Darren McDavid and Milton Brown. And then like Kelly, they have also denied any wrongdoing. And then he talks about 2 state cases are also pending. And I know people keep saying that Minnesota case has been dropped. I tried to find the Minnesota case. I can't find the Minnesota case. All I could find was the civil suit that person is filing, but I cannot find a criminal case. And then someone had commented on a video a while back who said that she actually called the clerk's office, and the clerk's office said that the case had been dropped. But evidently, these reporters are not calling to confirm that the case has been dropped, because every article I read, they say that Minnesota trial is still pending. So somebody needs to let them know. Maybe I'll let them know. Hey, that Minnesota trial, I believe, has been dropped. Can you call and find out for sure? So then he goes on and he talks about Rashona is expected to testify. And then that Rashona first met him in the 1990s when she was a junior in high school, and that she had tagged along to Kelly's Chicago recording studio with her aunt, a professional singer working with Kelly, who we know is Sparkle. And that soon after, Rashona told her parents that Kelly was going to become her godfather. Child, now I don't know how they got to the point where this child is telling the parents that somebody going to be her godparent. Because I thought that parents chose their children godparents, and after your child is born, if you don't have a godparent, your child just don't have no godparent. When we start picking godparents for teenagers, like that is so crazy to me. And then they say prosecutors say that Kelly later threatened and sought to pay off Rashona and her parents so they wouldn't testify in the 2008 trial, and none of them did. Now, what is so crazy about this? Y'all notice in none of the articles do they talk about the fact that Rashona's father, Greg Lanfair, was Mr. Kelly's guitarist and was his guitarist long after 2008. Like they never mention that, never talk about it. Why? Why is that? They don't want the public to know that. So when that hits, when that comes out in the trial, and I'm sure Jennifer Bunjean is going to bring it up, I know that jury going to be like, hold up, wait a minute. What in the hell is going on here? But anyway, child, and listen, let me stop saying hell because I forgot to I'm going to do another. I am doing a video about YouTube and their shenanigans and how they are demonetizing videos and then taking a week to review the videos and turn them back on after the videos done had the whole views. But I will share with y'all a report that YouTube sent me about why they demonetized my video and said that it was riddled with profanity. Now, y'all know, but I'm gonna let y'all see it for yourself, and then y'all let me know what y'all think about it. What video y'all think it is that I did that was riddled with profanity according to YouTube? But anyway, what do y'all think about Greg? The fact that they never mentioned that Greg Lanfair was the guitarist. Okay. So then we have John Seidel, and John Seidel, I believe, is with the Sun Times, and he wasn't really talking about nothing. Basically, he just said at least 6 people said that they've seen surviving lives. One man said, I don't think there are too many people who don't know about the case. Meanwhile, a few people have said they barely know anything about Kelly. One said, I don't even know who Kelly is. Now, child, who got up there and said they know who this man was? Okay, do y'all think they were an older person or a younger person? Said that. But remember, the judge said he didn't know who he was either until he was selected to be the judge for this case. Like, these people are so crazy. So I think that's it, y'all. That's pretty much what happened today in court. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel. And then as soon as I get this all set up and ready to go, I will go ahead and do all the remaining motions that are out there and get those so we can be all caught up, okay? And then we can move forward, and I will do the best I can with trying to cover this case, y'all. I don't foresee that I will be spending, since YouTube is demonetizing my videos, I don't foresee, and I'm just being transparent here, that I will be buying any transcripts, because I spent a whole lot of money during that Eastern District of New York case on transcripts. So anyway, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.